Hi guys, I hope all of you are doing well. I'm Niladri Mukherjee. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice in Mississauga, Ontario, Canada. I'm also the founder and the CEO of Nuvonation Immigration Consulting. If you are planning to come to Canada in 2024, these are some of the very important aspects that you should keep in mind, in my opinion. Firstly, if you are planning to come here as an international student, this is super important for you to understand. Do not take a 9 months course for you to take a 1 year post graduation work permit and then figuring out the PR options. If your objective here is to be here permanently, if your objective is a permanent residence, then a 1 year course or a 9 months course is an absolutely useless one. You will not be able to get a permanent residency with the help of that. So if your objective is a permanent residency, make sure to apply for a course which is at least 2 years or more in duration. First of all, you will learn more, able to utilize your work experience better in a span of 3 years, and potentially you'll be having probably some better avenues to get yourself a permanent residency. So that's for if you are looking to come here as an international student. If you are planning to come here through a PNP or through normal express entry system, you have to understand is this: patience is the key. Whether it will happen for you or no, nobody knows. So getting into the pool in 2024 is a good idea, but do not think that getting into the pool means that you will be able to make it to Canada in by the end of 2024. For example, PNPs are a long drawn process. It on an average it takes about 1.5 years. Sometimes it takes more than 2 years. All right. So and also getting a nomination from PNP, be it through a job offer or otherwise, is not an easy thing. Regardless of the fact how much quotas all those provinces have increased, it is still a very highly competitive field when you talk about the provincial nominee programs, right? So it's hit or miss. Yes, there are many things that you could do to potentially enhance your chances, but whether those efforts will actually be resulting into a success or no is something that nobody can tell, right? So this is something that you have to keep in mind, that patience is the key when you talk about express entry or a PNP these days. Thirdly, max out on your IELTS, max out on your French ability. Period. If learning French is an investment for you, make sure you make that investment if you're serious about coming to Canada. Without this, probably it's not going to happen. Fourthly, IELTS is not the only language test that's being approved here in Canada, right? If you're watching this video from Asia, a very competitive and a reasonably easier one is a CELPIP. I have given both IELTS and CELPIP. I find CELPIP better, and a lot of other clients of mine also find CELPIP better. So if you're not able to max out on your IELTS, make sure to take advantage of the CELPIP as well. And it's a little less expensive to appear in CELPIP as compared to IELTS. So take care of that as well. If you are somebody married, make sure your wife also appears in IELTS. Make sure your spouse also does have his or her, educational assessment done. It increases the score, and this is the need of the day. So make sure to keep in mind all those aspects. Before even thinking that you will have a successful life here in Canada, there are some fine prints that I would like you to keep in mind. Okay, the housing is a mess here in Canada. Period. It's a mess. There are people that owns over 15, 20, 30 properties. There are people that will never be able to own a property in this country. The housing is in that kind of a mess. And because there is a high demand for a very limited supply, the rents have gone up significantly as well, along with the prices of houses, which are at all-time high anyways, right? So for a one-bedroom apartment, even in Southern Ontario, you're looking at close to $2,700-$2,800. If you're near to the downtown, you go further up, maybe $2,000. But still, the rentals have gone up significantly. The prices of houses have gone up significantly. The mortgage rates, the interest rates, everything is very high these days. So don't think that you will be able to make a lot of money here in Canada. You will be able to save a lot of money here in Canada for you to be potentially able to buy a property in the near future. It could be possible depending on your financial situations that you're coming from back home, but making money here in Canada is not easy. So that leads me to my second point in the similar aspect, is that salary levels in Canada are not very high. They are bad. to say the least, right? If you compare our salary levels with the salary levels of the similar folks in the United States, it's a joke. For a job that people in the US gets paid about $150,000 a month, a year, for an exact similar nature of job here in Canada, people get no more than 80,000 to 90,000 Canadian dollars, and then you pay 30% tax to the government. So salary levels are never high. Yes, if you're into business, potentially you can make a relatively good amount of money, but I will make a lot of money here in Canada in 2024 and beyond. If you're coming from abroad, probably that's not going to happen. This is something that you need to keep in mind. The growth rate, if you get a job here in Canada going forward, the growth rate is not again great. All right. You will not get a 10% salary increment every single year. This is something also if you have to keep in mind, particularly if you're coming from countries such as Asia or Middle East, where the per year increments are quite very high. It's not all that bad. I'm not trying to be pessimistic about saying everything negative about Canada, because the good things you already know. It's a great country, right? There are everything that is. It's a country with great infrastructure. It's a country with a great proximity to the United States. It's a country with great national parks, provincial parks, nature, lakes, and everything. But practically speaking, for day-to-day living, this country is getting difficult for the newcomers, is what I'm trying to say. So if you're planning to come here in 2024 and beyond, I could tell you it's not going to be a cakewalk for you, and be prepared with everything. You will, your money outflows will be significant in the initial days, and maybe in the initial few months or years, your outflows will be significant. So make sure that you have a backup. Healthcare is not in its best. They have invited a lot of people in the last couple of years, but there is not a significant increase in the healthcare professionals. You go to an emergency ward in any hospitals in any major cities, you will have an average of 2 to 3 hours kind of a waiting time. If you have a major surgery, for that you have to wait for a few years, if you are lucky, right? So healthcare is also not in its best condition, and it's all publicly funded. So unlike many other countries, you cannot pay to get a better quality healthcare or reduce the waiting time and stuff like that. It's the same for everybody. So you have to be in that queue regardless of how critical your situation is, unless and until, to be very bluntly, unless and until somebody is dying, they don't prioritize those cases, period. So all these aspects you have to keep in mind, right? I mean, I personally, as a Canadian citizen, I love this country. But at the same time, I'm also privileged because I came here a few years back when this country was very, very different, when the cost of living was very different, when owning a house was not as difficult as it is today. Yes, the housing prices in Canada were always very high as compared to the United States, but these days it has become a complete mess. So for the newcomers, I know my clients pay over 2,500 Canadian dollars, 2,700 Canadian dollars to live in a one-bedroom apartment in Mississauga, basement apartment in Mississauga. Right, so that's the kind of rent that I'm talking about. So be prepared with everything. Grocery prices have also gone up quite a bit, far higher than an average Canadian salary level. So as I have said, your outflows will be way too high. But on the positive side, this country has taught me that if you have the ability, if you have the right attitude, over a few years, if you have the guts that yes, I'm going to stay here regardless of whatever happens, yes, you have to plan it strategically. You have to plan things correct. You have to plan things well in advance. You have to be prepared about everything mentally and financially. But if you're able to give a few years to your life to this country, I could tell you this country is amazing. Even today, in spite of all its shortcomings, the people are still amazing. It's one of the safest country. It's one of the country with a huge landscape, with a very little population till date, which means you have a lot of land to explore, right? So it's still great. What you have to keep in mind is that it is going to be an initial struggle. Initial struggle, I don't mean for a few weeks, I mean for a few months. It could extend to a few years, as long as you're able to give this much amount of time to this country. Long term, if you think 10 years down the line, maybe 7-10 years down the line, you will be established if you are hardworking and capable. So if you are planning to come to Canada in 2024 and beyond, these are some of the things that you have to keep in mind. Also keep in mind that there will be a political change quite sooner. Don't think there will be an election in October 2025. If things go like the way things are currently going. Probably we will see an election in 2024. Liberals will most likely go out of power, conservative will come into power, and along with the conservative government, you would expect a lot of conservative measures kicking in, right? One of the measures that you can potentially see is the citizenship time. For example, now you have to stay here for a period of 1095 days, which translates to 3 years out of a period of 5 years to apply for citizenship. That will go up for sure. It could be 4 years, it could be 5 years, very, very easily. Spousal sponsorship under the family class applications, work permit, study permit, etc. The processes around those are going to be stringent. So that's also something for you to keep in mind. Immigration quotas are going to come down significantly. By significantly, I mean at least it's not going to be like a 500,000 kind of a quota for sure. It's going to come down. So these are also some of the things. Keep yourself updated on the political situations as well, because this is quite evolving. And Canada, in my opinion, to the extent I understand politics here, is going to see a drastic political change in the months and years to come. So that will also have an impact on immigration, which is very important for all the newcomers or the potential newcomers to keep in mind. These are some of the aspects that I think we should keep in mind. Hope this helps. If you need our help with any of the aspects about Canadian immigration, book a relevant consultation directly through the website. I'll be more than happy to have a case-specific discussion with you to answer all your questions. Hope this helps. See you guys in the next one. Bye now. Cheers.